Hello, sweet friend. My name is Maike, and in this video, I would like to journal with you. I want to make another weekly spread, and for this one, I want to try something new. For one, I thought it might be fun to try and illustrate my week rather than the usual collage mixture. Just wanted to see what that looked and felt like. And then also I wanted to try and limit myself to a color palette rather than doing the line art and then going in with watercolor and coloring everything in somewhat realistic colors. I thought it might be fun to play around with that. So yeah, that's the plan. And in general, it's just gonna be a cozy session, hanging out together, journaling. Well, maybe I'll start with swatching the colors for you so you get a sense, and maybe I'll zoom you in too so you can see or start to see a little bit more depending on how this goes. So the main color, I think what's going to be the main color is going to be Sailor Afternoon Tea, and it's this orangey brown, so I think that's going to be good, and it's a very lively color and that's gonna stand out really well. So we have that, and then I thought it would be nice to have a soft dusty pink, and this is Diamine Cashmere Rose. And since this is a Sailor Steel fine nib, I might use this primarily for writing, but we'll see if we can incorporate that into the drawings as well. And then to break this color palette up and venture out of this orangey red area, we'll go in with a vibrant green. This is Diamine Wagner, which is a very... I would think that this still goes as an olive green, but it is on the very bright saturated side of olive greens. And then for some fun glittery accents and potentially also for some headings, I picked out this Wearing Gold Autumn Night After 1,000 Years, which is a gray-green, a very neutral green, and it has gold shimmer. And I've been really enjoying that in a Binu broad nib. For headings. That's really, really fun. So yeah, I think that's going to be fun to play around with. And then in terms of markers, I pulled out the markers that I set up recently in one of my videos that I filled with ink. And this is still a little full here. So we have, whoa, that, yeah, spilled out right out. I overfilled this marker. So we're going to have to be careful with that because that can easily lead to accidents. So we have Lennon Toolbar Sesame Oil, and we have, this is Vinta Sirena, a beautiful soft blue-green gray, and then Sailor Afternoon Tea, but in a marker. So that obviously goes really well with the afternoon tea. And then we always need a pink for some cheeks, cute little cheeks. Make faces come alive. So yeah, I think this looks fun. Wow, that is so much ink right there. So yeah, I might skip the sesame oil because if the marker is still very unpredictable, that's maybe not such a good idea. Alrighty, and maybe I zoom you in even further for the drawings. I don't know if you can see right here is a pencil drawing of a little cat with a calculator because my husband and I were doing taxes. Always super fun. Yay. But, oh well. And I don't know, maybe I'll move this down some. And hopefully you'll be able to see enough, and maybe I'll go in and do these headings first so we have something to orient ourselves at taxes. And I do think this ink color might make the broad nib appear less broad. Might be a little on the drier side. But yeah, it's been really fun to have a specialty glittery color for headings. And a broad nib is really good for that. That's a lot of ink down. And as you know, I find lettering like this very soothing. Right before I started filming this video, I saw a video on YouTube about an art competition and how an AI artist almost won, even though the rules of the competition stated that AI art wasn't permitted. And I don't want to get into a whole AI art or AI in general conversation, but what struck me is like some people who are really into AI art, like making it, they obviously claim that they are allowed to call themselves artists because the machine wouldn't have created whatever it is that they're working on without their prompting. And so I do agree that there's probably some craftiness to thinking of a concept and going ahead and trying to translate that into a prompt that the algorithm can understand and create what you want it to create. And this is really tricky to draw because it's so close to the middle of the book. Sometimes the lines get a little wonky right here. But what I realized is that making the art is so much part of the product for me. Like, it's so soothing. I can think through what I'm drawing and why I'm drawing it, and picking the colors and see them come together on the page. Yeah, I don't know. It's a shame that we would get rid of the part that is going to be so soothing, you know? Or not that we get rid of it, but that people are satisfied with typing something in. It's not the same, but there is something very special about handwriting in the same way. The flow of the hand and the connection between hand and brain are important. So obviously it's the same with drawing. You gotta feel it. You gotta move your own hand. And yeah, I just don't get why it would be satisfying to someone who is creative, who thinks about these concepts and wants to turn them into artwork, to just type in a prompt and have the computer spit out the image. Yeah, just don't understand. I was also talking to someone, or actually, yeah, several people. I've been having these conversations about why fountain pen ink is so fun, or like using watercolor in a journal. And this is really, I think I'm gonna turn this around. The drawing's turning out a little crooked, but that's okay. Yeah, about playing with fountain pen inks and playing with watercolor, especially in journals. And somebody was saying how they are not a painter, but they got really interested in watercolors and using watercolors in their journals. And it just made me think of toddlers and how toddlers use crayons. They, at least up to a certain age aren't interested in the final outcome of the drawing. It's not a product to get done, but they just like seeing the color move. If they have a crayon and they scribble, 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 they are interested in what the how the color moves on the page, and it's really satisfactory. And so it's all about the process. It's just watching the color move. And if you're somebody who, for example, likes watching fountain pen inks, you know that feeling. Like sometimes, why is this not working? Sometimes that's all you need, is to just watch some beautiful colors on the page. And I think the same can go for watercolors too, especially in a journal. There are so many fun ways to use watercolor that aren't painting. And I made a video, I can link, about how you can use watercolor that isn't painting in your journal. And I think that is so valid and so soothing. And I think we as adults need to allow ourselves more opportunities to just enjoy something for the sake of it. Like, not everything needs to be for something. Like, it doesn't need to turn into a side hustle. It doesn't need to turn into anything. You can just sit down and enjoy color just on its own. That's all. So, yeah. That's my soapbox for today. And there we have it. Yeah, I think that's quite nice. And then give her some cheeks. And maybe we'll color in her dress with the green. I think this is the green. I've been really in the mood to just doodle in my journal. And nothing against collaging and using stickers and washi tapes. I mean, I also still very much love that. But recently I've been very much drawn to just draw. I don't know. It's just been a phase, I guess. And now this, I can put the, I am not a big fan of these clampy clamps. But, oh well. So here's a little cat taking a nap, because once we were done with the taxes, I definitely had to take a nap. And so now I wonder if I should keep going with doing the line art in the afternoon tea, or do I switch it up and use, for example, the green gray for the lines. No, I think I'm gonna stick with doing the line art in all the same colors and then keep it consistent that way, and just having separate. And yeah, you really can't see very much, can you? I'm sometimes afraid that the camera sometimes focuses on my hand rather than on the paper. I hope I fixed that now. So yeah, I definitely had to take a nap after we came home from the accountant office and had gotten everything done and in. Sometimes I think it wasn't even that like big of a deal to put it all together. I mean, obviously there's more fun things to do. But sometimes I feel like it's just the anticipation and just the intense focus and not wanting to miss anything, or yeah, get numbers mixed up. I feel like I'm holding in a lot, or holding a lot of things together in my head. And so then afterwards I'm just exhausted. Yeah. And this is one of the things that I appreciate so much about being self-employed is that, yes, you have to do your taxes, but also you can allow yourself to take a nap afterwards. Yeah. And then as you can see, the last Journal With Me video, I was already talking about flattening perspective and beds. Oh yeah, we drew another. Oh yeah, I was reading in bed. That wasn't a nap. But yeah, here's another flattened perspective bed, this time going horizontal. I was glad to hear that some of you found that helpful to see and hear. And it is true that, yeah, so much of art education is often about correct perspective, correct anatomy. And I'm certainly not saying that there isn't value in that, but I feel like we could use a little bit more books or people talking about ways of how you can do funny perspective or funny anatomy, but it's still looking intentional. Now, why is this not? Is this? No, there's a lot of ink in there. I keep forgetting that this is a piston filler, so I keep trying to screw this open to see what the ink level is. But yeah, I guess it's just the nib not quite being able to keep up with my coloring of this. Yeah, this ink is very well behaved. I love this color. I do think I enjoy it a little bit more in a finer nib. This is a medium. Yes. I think I like it better, say, in a fine, because sometimes it can be a little intense in the medium if you write with it. It does get quite fiery then. I mean, for drawing, I guess it's kind of fun. But, yeah, there's that. Okay, well, maybe I'll just hop on down here. There was a day that week that my husband and I we started working, and then it was, I don't know, like almost 2 p.m. and we realized we both didn't really eat breakfast, and so we made a really fun, elaborate lunch together, which was fun. I guess another benefit of working from home, and both of us working from home, is that you can just have fun lunch opportunities. Well, this is kind of fun too, to not kind of fully fill everything in. I like that look, but now I did the taxes one all filled in, so maybe I should fill this all in just to keep things consistent. I do think I'm very, I can be very, my brain can't not, like if you've introduced one rule, you gotta keep it going kind of thing. Oh, there's obviously no rule book saying that you can't switch up the way you write out your titles. And you don't even have to have titles to begin with, I guess, but yeah, I like making titles. Helps structure the page, and it's fun to, if I don't want to read everything when I flip through a journal, it's great to be able to see the big topics. And so our fun lunch consisted of, oh, what are those scribbles? Oh, I can see. Okay, so we had hash browns, which is, I guess, just these rectangles with some texture on there. And some spinach, which I guess we can gonna be able to put on some color on this. Like so, and then there was another hash brown here. And then a veggie-based, like breakfast patty, which I guess just looks very similar. I am, I think I've said before, and then a fried egg. I am not the greatest at drawing food because my drawings are often so simple that it's a little hard to tell sometimes. But maybe color can save me. And then here I think I indicated a little bit of ketchup. Maybe we'll do that in the afternoon tea color. Yeah, I don't know if that will. And a plate. And then similarly to perspective, I always think that drawing perfect circles is really hard, so I don't even try. And so I often square off, especially when you draw this more or less big. So I often just square up the roundness to begin with. Yeah, so that we'll definitely have to add some color to that. And what about our little napping friend? And some cheeks. And we can add, is this the blue? Some of these patchworky, quilty sections right here. And oh yeah, we have this other pink. Obviously this is the fine nib, so that might take a little while, but I guess these are not too big. And we can leave some squares white. I think that's gonna keep it light and airy. But maybe we'll add some of this lighter pink. Like so. That's kind of cute. And then maybe we add that to the pillow, just so that it gives a bit of contrast to the head. Yeah, I think that works. And then our food. Let's see. We'll give the spinach some green color. And I like to leave a little bit of white space around, especially if the value of the line color and the color I'm coloring in is very similar. Just to keep it from muddying up altogether. And then what should we do? What should we do? We could use the, which one is it? I still need to mark these, what each of the colors is. Maybe the patty gets the afternoon tea as a marker. Yeah, okay. And then the, maybe we'll just add this for the eggs. Yeah. I mean, I know what it is. Hopefully that's enough, and I could always write it out too. Yeah, okay. And then I did, because it was so fun to have lunch together and we had a fun little chat, I did draw some cuties down here. Now these ones, it's just two heads. I think it would be fun to just make these because they're gonna be really basic with just as a floating heads. I think I am gonna go ahead and change it up and draw these with the autumn night after 1,000 years. So variangle. I find these Banu Pixies very comfortable, especially for drawing. I hope they keep this line going, and I feel like I haven't seen one that is like a nice warm green in the Banu Pixies. Maybe I'm mistaken, but I think that would be fun. Yeah. Aw, I think that looks cute. And as always, cheeks just makes characters look alive, even if you don't color anything else in. That's why I like cheeks. All right, well, let me show you what this, whoa, sorry. I think that's looking fun. I think that's working out quite well with the limited color palette. What do you think? I'm having a good time. I hope you are too. Okay, well then there's a couple more things on the opposite side. So if you are still with me and liking this, we can keep going, yeah? And zoom you back in just a little bit, like so maybe. Yeah. So this week was my sister's birthday. And so here we have a cat with a party hat. Yay. Obviously living on a different continent than her means that the celebrations had to happen over phone. I'm just gonna move my pens out of the way. But such is life. I'm just grateful that we have all these ways to still communicate with each other and see each other's faces. I mean, thinking about how it used to be, all you had was letters. Yeah. There's that. So how are you doing? Anything new and fun to report? I guess the kids are finally going back to school, huh? Maybe we'll fill in these circles. Yeah, man, it's really interesting. Usually this nib is really reliable. I'm not sure why it keeps having these, but yeah, maybe just because I'm coloring, it's a little. And then what about the scarf? Do we make that blue-gray again? I think so. I've been really into this combination of reddish browns combined with bluish colors like blue-green or those kinds of things to almost get a complementary red-blue combination. I think it's quite fun. And then I also thought we kind of have a little, this is going to be hard to draw because bulk right there. But a little, what's it called? Bunting? I think that's what it's called. Like so. And then maybe we can add polka dots, stripes, and more polka dots. Well, I don't know. This is a little more than polka dots, I suppose. We'll let that dry for a minute before we go in with markers and color that. And then this lower section right here, I did make Brötchen, German dinner rolls, which I already talked about in last week's Journal With Me video. If you're new here, some of the information in my weekly spreads is doubled up from the spreads in my undated journal. And so far, I have not minded that. I just want to have certain things represented in the weeks. So when I flip through this journal, they're all together. But yeah, if you watched last week's Journal With Me video, then you already know about this. And how delicious they were. Yeah, I don't know if thickening this up is going so well. I feel like the letters are a lot tighter together. So I don't want to thicken it up too much and then everything is just blotching together. And so we have some Brötchen and some cheese. And I guess I can go ahead and just, while I have this here, I finished reading a book, which was called Letters from Tove. So it's the author, illustrator, artist Tove Jansson, the creator of the Moomins, and it is just a collection of her letters to family and friends. And it was quite an interesting read. I feel like I've gotten to know her as a person a little bit more, and I felt very what's the word? This is even tighter. I don't think I can really thicken this up. Sometimes it's not the greatest idea to get to know more of people you admire, or idolize, not idolize, but like people who you strive to be like that can be a very disappointing experience, I suppose. But in this case, I felt even more that if our paths would have crossed, then I think we could have been friends, because there were quite a few things where I feel like we have similar things we value, similar, we're wired very similar in certain ways, and so yeah, I think we could have been friends. But yeah, that of course never happened. But it was still nice to read it. And it made me really think like, wow, I just said that about how blessed I feel to be able to FaceTime my family in Germany, but seeing and I mean, it's just a selection of her letters. She really wrote a lot of letters to family and friends, and it's so nice that there's still this tangible artifact, especially because she's obviously a very popular person, and so it's and a very not just popular but successful person and famous person, and so to have all these records and to be able to get to know her like that, there's something about letters that is just fun. And yeah, she was very good at pointing out things, like the way she knew what to share when she, for example, went on travels, about not just the environment, but the people she met and things like that. Just kind of cool. Yeah, and so here I drew the book cover. Sometimes it's fun to try and copy book covers, especially if you keep it relatively small, because the simplification that happens when you draw it that small is just kind of fun. I find. Yeah. And it's also going back to this like point of why would you, the act of drawing it is part of the drawing. And so it's a fun way to remember and commemorate the reading you've done. There was, and so I made a very simplified Tova here and her short hair, and then she had this really fun wave at the front of her hair. Yeah, and I think this medium nib might be a little just borderline too fat for the tiny drawing that I did. She's holding a painter's palette in case that's not showing up quite well. And then there was a bookcase in the back. Yeah, I usually don't, I mean, this wasn't a biography, of course, but I usually don't read these kinds of books, but I quite liked this. And again, I found it very inspiring in terms of, yeah, just the act of writing letters, but also the way she wrote in those letters. Make me think like maybe I should write more letters. And I actually don't know if she kept a journal, but if she didn't, then it's at least nice to have at least to some extent similar thoughts captured on in these letters. Also amazing how these people that she wrote to, I mean, family is maybe one thing, but even her friends, that they kept these letters is kind of amazing. Have you had something like this happen where you, oh yeah, and then it says letters from Tova, but maybe I'll do that with a finer nib so we can still fit that. Where you learned more about someone you admire and it made you feel like, oh yeah, if we would have met each other, I think we could have even be friends. Has that happened to you? Or who is someone who you would have loved to be friends with? Or just maybe just have a dinner with? Yeah, that just barely fit. And then I draw a little envelope down here just to indicate that it's the letters. I think I'm gonna go in with the blue just to make very clear that this is a separate object. Yeah, like that. And then I drew a cat reading right here. I feel like I'm being very quiet. I hope this is still nice to have on while you journal, and that I can keep you company nonetheless. I don't mind that when I watch Journal With Me videos, when I have somebody on, if there's a little bit of silence and the person needs to think or gather some materials, but yeah, there's just something about doing these drawings that's just very soothing. I mean, sometimes I surprise myself when I do these Journal With Me videos, and I think like, oh, in the beginning, I don't really think about the things that I talk about, not really anyway. And so sometimes I'm surprised of how there is things to chat about. I'm definitely somebody who, with in-person events, I often am afraid, or some of my social anxiety comes from being afraid of not having anything to talk about, of not knowing what to say. But maybe I shouldn't be so afraid of that overall. And then I do feel like we need more, well, I'll zoom you out to show you. I do feel like we need more areas of the solid Sailor Afternoon Tea to even this out. So we could do her shirt right here. That would be a good one. Are you ordering from Hobonichi this year? I guess that's one of the main topics going through the journaling community and planner community right now. With all the new stuff having come out, and I decided not to, at least for now, because I am still obviously enjoying my whoa, that came out really weird, Traveler's Notebook system. And having seen how last year even the most popular things came back in stock, I feel like I can wait, and I want to see what happens with all that tariff things. And I know that some of the European folks always pay import tax on things like Hobonichi, and I have, when I lived in Germany, I have paid import tax on things before. And you know, in some ways I understand, or sort of think that import taxes just are part of a global economy. But what I'm not so sure about is this is all very like new and I don't know how much chaos is gonna ensue with packages coming in. And I just don't wanna, I just feel like it's too unsettled to really deal with that. Okay, so that is that. Maybe we can add some more different colors right here. What could we do? We could start with the pink, probably. Just add some cheekies. Give Tova some cheekies. Maybe we can use it on some of the cheese. Don't know if that really makes it look like cheese. But, oh well. And some of that gray green again. Now I don't want to put that on the bread because that's just going to look like mold. Definitely some socks right here, and we can definitely also put it into the bunting. And maybe some of that pink. I guess I never used that Wagner, it's a brighter green. That's okay. I guess these couple colors were enough. I could use them for the numbers up top so that the numbers are sort of a little bit separate. Is that a good thing or a bad thing to have the numbers separate? I'm not sure. What to do here? Just like so, maybe? Put that in the background to have her stand out a little bit more. And then maybe she has some green blobs of color on her palette. I don't know. I don't think there was any, I don't know if there was anything on the picture that she had on there. Yeah. Maybe like that. I think that's pretty even. I mean, this has very little color there, but I really don't want to put any color on the Boitje, I think. Yeah. I think I'm going to leave it at that, and yeah, just gonna fill in the writing, and yeah, the only decision I have to make is sort of what I want to do with the numbers. Yeah, okay, I'll fill it in and then I'll be right back. And here it is all filled in. I think it looks really cute. I really like that color palette. I think that works really nicely. And I like how the drawings came together and just are scattered throughout. I did go ahead and do the numbers in the Diamine Wagner, the slightly more saturated green color. And even though that color is not represented in the bottom half of the spread, I do think it still works to have the color be different for the numbers. And I didn't fill them in. I just left them as lines like that because I think that helps them feel not too bulky and not draw too much attention to themselves. But yeah, I personally think that works. Yeah, alrighty. Well, that's this. I must say that I feel a little self-conscious about the fact that I brought up AI and tariffs. Those things are maybe not the most soothing topics for a Journal With Me session. I hope you were okay with that, and you still had a lovely time journaling and hanging out with me and being creative. Yeah. All right, that's it from me this week, and until next time, happy journaling. Oh, I have ink all over.